Okay, Zoltan, are we ready to start?
Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody to the first of the seminar. Our webinar is Return to EWF Competitions for 2021. We will be focusing on the rules and regulations, looking at competition health and safety. We need to go through some housekeeping procedures. So how do you access the translation? If you look down towards the end, you will see the word interpretation. Have a look at that and you can change. You can go to Spanish or you can go to Russian. So both are open now, both Spanish and Russian. Secondly, if you would like to ask questions, you please go over to the Q&A. The questions and answers, please use this to type in questions. That if we have a break between presentations, we will answer, or there will be an opportunity at the end for questions and answers. My name is Colin Buckley. I'm chairman of the Coaching and Research Committee, and my role here today is to moderate for this seminar. Zoltan, could you move to the next, please? We would also like to thank Eleco. Eleco are offering a lottery for people attending the webinar. They have a collection of free t-shirts, hoodies, and jumpers. The email address will be andreas.andren@eleco.com. You will have to wait to the end of the presentation to get a special code to enter this free lottery. This lottery is only available to people who have signed up for the webinar through Zoom, not for the people, unfortunately, who are joining us on YouTube. Can we move, please? So before we start, on Thursday, we received information from the International Olympic Committee for the playbook for international federations for the upcoming Olympics. Due to follow will be a publication for officials, coaches, and athletes. There are three key main areas. 1, minimize physical interaction. Keep physical interaction with others to a minimum. 2, avoid physical contact, including handshakes and hugs. 3, avoid closed spaces and crowds where possible. And 4, use games transport according to your own specific playbook. Do not use public transport unless given specific permission. Second, test, trace, and isolate. You will be required to download Japan's COVID health reporting phone app. You will be required to be tested before you leave your country with a negative result, and you may be asked again to test when you arrive at the airport. You will also have to follow the restrictions that apply to your 14 days in Japan. Every federation, every coach, athlete, and official will receive a documented book which outlines all procedures. COVID test 19. In your role, you may have to do regular screening during the games. And finally, you need to get a test and isolate if you experience any symptoms or if you've been told to do. Think of hygiene. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Wear masks at all times unless outside and 2 meters from others. If you have to cough, please cough into your mask, your sleeve, or your elbow. Supporting your athletes by clapping. There will not allowed be singing or chanting. Now that is going to be very hard for everybody. Avoid sharing items where possible. And when you can, disinfect them. And finally, ventilate rooms and common spaces for a minimum of 30 minutes after use. These are the guidelines which are available through the International Olympic Committee for all federations. The next one to follow will be the handbook, which will be for coaches, athletes, and officials. So our seminar agenda, we will be finished within 2 hours. Our first stage will be the introduction, where I'd like to welcome the interim president of the IWF, the president of the EWF, and we have the general secretary of the IWF and general secretary of the EWF. The second part will be our seminar, where we will only be focusing on the competition weigh-in, the competition warm-up, and the competition field of play. The EWF must work under the IWF competition rules and regulations, and we will be focusing on COVID-19 precautions. At the end of this presentation, there will be an opportunity to discuss with the panel any questions or answers you may be looking for. And the final slide then will be the login details for the free clothing, which will be supplied by Alico. So we'd like to welcome everybody, including our Russian translator and Russian friends, and our Spanish translator and our South American friends. COVID-19 has changed the landscape for sport, and federations need to adapt to this changing environment. The fundamental principle of the EWF during the COVID pandemic is to protect and be protected at competitions by wearing masks, by sanitizing, by distancing, and respecting the recommendations and protocols set by the local government, the host federation, and the IWF. All persons should have the mutual responsibility to protect one another at all EWF competitions. So COVID-19, protect and be protected. First of all, everybody must wear a mask. A mask is a 3-layered surgical mask or equivalent without valves. Valves filter only the air inhaled coming in from the environment to your lungs. They do not filter the exhaled air going back out to the environment. And when you get a copy of the presentation, you will have the link for more information on that. Sanitizer. Any liquid or gel that has a sanitizing products that are approved by the host federation's local government. Preferably contactless dispensers, ones where you do not have to press any buttons. Social distancing, at least 1.5 meters distance between persons, wherever and whenever possible. Yes, we will have situations where that may not be able to happen. Areas like, especially around the Grand Marshal's table and also the side of the platform. Key points to remember from when you arrive at the airport to your hotel, to the training, to the competition hall. There may be sanitation stations going into the warm-up room as well and going into the field of play. You may be asked for your temperature. You may be asked to hand sanitize, or you may have to prove your details for contact tracing. This will be for all officials, coaches, athletes, also for television crews. So the host federation will be responsible for the management of event. And their management is under the guidance and rules and regulations of the local government policy, which will include personal protection equipment, which would be masks, protecting distances, etc. This will be the case from your arrival to your departure. Please remember, this is a living document and details may change before your final entry to your arrival in into the country. So we hope that information will be available for every federation in advance. Officials and teams may have to operate in team pods or group bubbles. Now, this will be very hard for athletes because they may not have seen other athletes in over a year. Getting together for team photographs, for hugs, to socialize may not be able to happen. The same for coaches and officials. We may have to stay within our group bubbles. Each person must use common sense in their behavior. They must adhere and respect local government instructions relating to COVID-19 pandemic. In particular, personal protection, washing your hands, sanitizing, wearing your mask, barrier gestures, handshake, hugging, get together for photographs, and finally, social distancing, where possible, a minimum of 1.5 meters. The event management, there are 5 key areas which are paramount. 1. Compulsory protection actions. These are general measures, including behaviors, personal hygiene measures, and personal protection equipment. 2. Location specific measures. For when you arrive at the airport, to your transport, to your hotel, to your meals within the hotel, your socializing in the hotel, your accreditation, your transport to training and to competition. When you arrive at the competition venue, the minimum sanitary facilities, communal areas, the medical, the anti-doping area, the athlete rest area, officials room, VIP and return transport to the hotel. As you see, there's a lot of areas here and a lot of areas of risk. 3. Staff specific measures. There should be an event COVID-19 manager who is responsible for the personnel, the staff, the delegation, and the officials. Number 4, an emergency protocol for positive COVID-19 PCR tests. What happens if an outbreak occurs? There will be an event COVID manager. Each delegation should have a COVID-19 officer or team leader who's responsible to keep people away from the infected person, but also what is the isolation procedures. And finally, number 5, contact tracing. Officials and delegations, their movements, from when they arrive at the airport, to their transport to the hotel, to their training, etc. There needs to be an understanding of where everybody has been and at what time. Now, many people are familiar. Every area we go to, we will see sanitization stations. We will have face masks. You may, for instance, with the technical controller beside the platform, there may be a see-through screen. I ask everybody to please be patient, be tolerant. English is not the first language for many countries. People will be wearing face masks and it may be very hard to understand. So please be polite and allow time. Yes, there will be signs to wash your hands, the social distancing, but especially in the warm-up room, area beside the field of play with the platform, there will be barriers on the ground. Please become familiar with these signs. So be on time, be patient, and be polite. As we were saying, English may not be the first language for people, and it may be hard to understand wearing a face mask. Also, traveling from your airport to the hotel or to training, you may have to pre-book your seat on your bus. People cannot just rush on and go to their favorite place. There may be specific buses. So please be on time, be patient, and be polite. So very shortly, I will introduce you to the EWF President, Dr. Antonio Urso, who will open the presentation and will say a few words. Also, he will be followed by IWF Interim President, Dr. Mike Irani, but Mike will also say a few words on behalf as Chairman of the IWF Medical Committee. This will be followed by the IWF General Secretary, Mohammed Jalout, who will say a few words on behalf of the IWF, and then our EWF General Secretary, Dr. Hassan Akus, will go through the entry procedures for competitions. So I'd like to hand you over to the EWF President, Dr. Antonio Urso.
Thank you very much, Colin. I am happy and more than happy to open this webinar and to have information that this webinar is followed by a lot of people around the world and a lot of people of the weightlifting family, and this is really a big pleasure for me. My pleasure is that this webinar is in cooperation with the International Weightlifting Federation, and I would like to thank the interim president, Dr. Michael Irani, and the general secretary, Mohammed Jalout. I would like to thank the executive board of European Federation to support this European webinar, and let me to thank also Sarah Davis, the chairwoman of Athletes Commission, today with us, and the strong activities done by the technical committee, Tina Bater, Mike Trigedun, of the medical chairman at WEF committee, and Colin was the engine of this project. As you know, last year and till today, the situation was really dramatic in each part of the world. Unfortunately, the pandemic situation and the virus was destroying our life, our sports in a special way. All the competition was stopped, and now I am happy that also the International Olympic Committee suggests to the International Federation and the Continental Federation to come back to the competition and to start again the normal life. But we know very well that this virus will be with us for 1-2 years, for a long time, unfortunately. But it's necessary to start again. It's necessary to start with a new approach and a new philosophy of competition. It's necessary to start again to give to our lifters the opportunity to have a long vision and a good perspective for the future. It's not easy, and I know very well it's not easy for the organizing committees. It's not easy for the European and the Continental Federation generally, but we need to be close in this moment and open again our competition and open again the opportunity to come back to live our sport, our beloved sport. I wish to all of you, thanks all the interpreters today with us, and to have a really a good webinar and share in this webinar all the possibilities to have a competition, safety, and once again full of dreams. Thank you so much, and Colin, I give you again the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We would like to call on Dr. Mike Irani, Interim President of the IWF. And Zoltan, if you could put Mike onto the main screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody, and thank you very much indeed, Colin. and of course President Antonio Osso, President of Europe. I just want to say it is a real pleasure, because I am a European, because I live in London, and I was a member of the board, British Weightlifting Board. I had to withdraw because I became president of the IWF. Yesterday we had a very important meeting. We had Kit McConnell, who's the head of the clinical. The clinical. He's that chap who does all the sporting events for the IWF, and he presented the 3 points that are sticking with the IOC. And the 3 points of the IOC that they mentioned are, first of all, the fact of doping, the old story doping. We have had a real, on the test back tests, we've had quite a few positives, very, very many. And so it was decided, for one reason or another, that we would increase the positive test before penalties are served from 3 to 4. And that has caused some questioning, and we're now getting it sorted, and we're going to ask around as to whether we should change it. And it looks like we may, not we will. The other one was on governance, so doping, governance, and the third, which I'm really glad that it was brought up, was athlete representation. And we've had a short saying from Antonio to say that we had Sarah Davis, who really, she's quite outspoken, which is what we need. She's not shy, and she certainly makes a point, and she takes people on, which is great. The other thing was the fact of the governance, etc., because governance includes sanctioning, and sanctioning has to be fair, and democratic. And we got in the independent sanctioning panel, and we made two other panels which are very important. They're commissions, really. One was the reform and governance, and the other commission was the ethics and disciplinary. So these are vital, important, and they've now taken on the constitution and started from the core outwards. So far, we've been sort of putting on a Band-Aid rather than sorting it out from the middle and substantially. So that was important. The other one was the vetting, and this is why there's been a delay in notifying the people who have been nominated by their federations for the elections that are forthcoming. And the number of nominations is high. And secondly, the more intense and astute vetting will take place. So it takes time. We have largely closed the secretariat in Budapest, and we've opened up our secretariat more formally in Lausanne, in fact, on the same floor as one of the other important sports. The athlete representation I've mentioned already, and we're very glad to have them there. And we hope that they will be contributing in all the other committees as well. We want more integration of the committees between each other so that we can get more substantial, more comprehensive data, just as Colin has done. Colin asked me, how many months ago was this? 2-3 months ago, that you asked, you said you got an idea for how we can start lifting weights again. It may have been more, 4 months ago. And I said, well,
May last year.
They say time flies when you get older. It's flown. But he's waited, he's researched, he's asked other people, and he's come to a very responsible and very detailed program. And it's something to be proud of. The thing about very comprehensive programs is that people have to remember all the details. But the three that are used by the health departments of nations are face, space, and hands. The face, of course, that's a very common, coughing and sneezing, singing, shouting. This is why we limit the amount of shouting you should do, or certainly you must wear a mask, as was mentioned earlier. The other thing was the hands part. Remember to bring your own chalk. Do not share the chalk. We worry about that. That's quite unique to us, perhaps. The bar will be cleansed after every lift, if necessary. It will be cleaned anyway, but even more so than you would for blood or other body secretions. The third point will be the space that we have to keep, 1.5 meters, as you said, Colin. But one important thing from that, the space, is that when you're taking photographs, there have been many competitions in South America that have been held, but these have been spoilt because of the personal space that was kept, because at the end of the competition, you got everybody hugging each other, staying in a close, compact pack to have the photograph taken, the team photo. Please refrain from that. Take individual photos and then put them together with some contraption on your phones. The one worry we have also that's ignored, but you mentioned it, Colin mentioned it in the accommodation, is ventilation. Please keep the windows open. Don't worry about that. If it's cold like it is now, well, of course, it'll be different, but you'll have to keep them open. Don't shut the doors and windows when you're cold. Keep them open for a while. As long as you can. Smoking is also not a very clever idea, because this virus affects mainly the lungs, but also the circulation. So if you can prevent smoking or refrain from smoking, that would be a good idea. Finally, wash your hands with soap and water. It's simple, soap and water. You don't need to worry about alcohol in sprays, etc., especially if your faith precludes that. So I've sort of given you an overview of the things that have happened. I don't want to exceed that, but I want to say that there are changes coming, and the changes have to be verified legally. We have to make them lasting. We're not just going for one quick fix in 2002. We're going for a permanent change in our constitution and the laws by which we lift weights. Secondly, and this is the other important thing, we are taking our time to do it because we want to make a good job of it. Please support us. Please don't throw bricks from outside, because we're being pummeled by bricks and we're busy throwing them out again, only for you to throw them back. We want to make sure, absolutely sure, that we're doing the right thing. Please, our silence does not mean that we've given in. Our silence means that we're concentrating on what we have to do, the job in hand. You've tasked us with a problem. We will solve it. We will solve it. We want your help to solve it. We enjoy your help. And finally, the Ethics Commission would be the proof of this, and that is that we rely upon support and support from outside. And you're our main reason for existing. Without lifters, we would have no weightlifting. And without any weightlifting, we would have no international federation. So I've spoken enough. I'm grateful to Colin. I hope this webinar is most successful. It seems to be very comprehensive in its agenda. And thank you very much for having invited me. And good luck all of you that lift. Remember what I said? Hands, space, face. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. It was an excellent presentation. You brought some valid points there, and it's a very easy phrase to remember: face, space, and hands. Have we got our IWF General Secretary with us, Zoltan? Do we have Jalut?
No.
Okay. I would like us to hand you over to the EWF General Secretary, Dr. Hassan Akus, who will go through procedures for signing up for competition. So I'd like to hand you over now to Hassan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. And also, I would like to welcome everybody as the General Secretary of the European Weightlifting Federation. And mainly, I will give information about our entries. And also, of course, after a long time, first time we will organize a competition in Russia at the beginning of the April. So also as like a Russian federation, everybody wonder how many countries, how many athletes will come or can come there. Of course, the current condition, maybe it is not the correct to say for the near future. I want to start my presentation to show you the entries, what will happen until today. As you know, our entry is extended until the 9th February, so still we have a time. I want to share my screen. As of today, I think you can see. Colin?
Yes. Everybody can see
Okay.
it? Yes.
Okay, thank you. As of today, 37 national federation made the entries to our system. And you know, in the entries, we have two kinds of athletes, as a main athletes and the reserve athletes. And the total number of the main female athletes, 191, and the total number of the main male athletes, 200, and the all total with the reserve athlete, 451. So it's quite well. And also number of the countries, 37. Generally, we expect 35 in the normal condition, but it's a really perfect number in the COVID conditions. And of course, I have to thank our member federation to interest the so important competition in the pandemic conditions. And my second presentation for the final verification. What is the final verification? After finalize the entries by the countries, 1 or 2 days ago, we invite all countries to make final entries. Of course, we meet physically. I will show you some things, please. So, did you change my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Could you see the photo?
Yes.
As you see, final verification meetings is really very, very friendly. Everybody close each other. Now, maybe it is good for the normal conditions, but in the pandemic conditions, really the situation unacceptable. It is it looks very friendly, but in the pandemic condition, it is really vital error for everybody. And also, it takes a long time. Then what they did, the people during the final verification meeting. For example, this is the Polish final verification paper. They made a correction, latest correction by handwriting. Then after finish the meetings, our secretariat and colleague like Tina and the Makronowski and others collect all paper and they regulate again, and also IT members enter this correction information to the system, then make the final competition program A, B, C, D group according to the categories. Today we have another options. First time I will show you, I will introduce you, then I change my screen again. Sorry. Zodi, can you help me how I can choose my web browser?
How can I help you? What's the problem?
Okay, now I. So you'll see that our traditional entry system. You know that this section, organization section, and the countries can check how many competitors at the system, and the room sharing, and the flight list, and the other details. We add another section, final verification list. You see the first time the section, if countries like the system and also accept, we can use it for Moscow. So when we click there, country can see the all athlete registered to the competition. Then if they want to change some things, for example here, they can change the entry total, main reserve status of the athlete, and also categories. Then when they finalize the athlete, like Okash, all of them, not the fake name, then click the verify. Then continue the other athletes register on the system. When they finalize the all verification, at the bottom of the screen, they click the complete the verification. So it means we don't need to sit face to face. We don't need the meeting in the small area without social distancing. Then also, we never use the handwriting, and also each federation has a own password, and only they can do that. Then very simple, and maybe 1 minute, 5 minutes maximum they need to finalize the verification. And also my office secretariat can see which countries finalize the verification, because as you know, we have a certain time for the verification process. Then all country there, and also we finish all time for everybody in the one time. Okay, then also we will give a certain date to finalize the verification. But before the deadline, my office checked the verification, verified the countries. Then if someone missing, we inform them, please join and finalize the verification. So this is the new system. It is very easy, easier than to make entries, easier than to make the room reservation, and also they have a lot of ability. Like if you don't like this changing, you can start again, click this button, and then also you can change before the deadline. So very simple things. My last presentation also, I am ready. If you have a question. No.
Okay, Hassan, if you can move forward because of the time, if you could play this final
Yeah,
presentation piece, thank you.
yes. Colin, you can see my latest
Yes,
information. Okay, so we have three options for the Moscow. Of course, you may have a additional question for the final entries through the online. I will prepare the user manual, and it's a very simple and very effective to use it. So now we have a three option. One is like we publish on the web page about the upcoming senior championship in Moscow. Final verification and the team manager meetings, Azamut Hotel, 1st April between 6 and 7 p.m. And the second option, we can invite only the team managers to give a general information about the competition, some main things every time we did, and also the same date. Why it is different? Because final verification need the more people from the each countries, because each country at least has a two coach, one of them for female team, one of them male team, and also for our other competition like junior and under 23 two competition, it means 4 team, each country come there with the 4 teams, and also youth and under 15. So a lot of coaches located in our small meeting rooms. So, or we can change the complete the final verification process like this in the end of bottom of the page. Final verification on European Weightlifting Federation competition entry system. Start third. This is an example how we can use it in Moscow. Start on 31st March at after midnight according to the Central European time, and finish on the 1st April before the midnight according to the Central European time. Then after the deadline, nobody changed, nobody verified, because they have to finalize, because we used also deadline when we organize the physical verification meeting. So my presentation and the introduction like this. If I have a question, if anybody have a question, I am ready. And also they can ask me by email or WhatsApp. I am ready to inform everybody.
okay, thank you, Hassan, for that very detailed presentation. And from what you were saying is the traditional final verification meeting will have to change. We must embrace and welcome modern technology and supply the information via email. Tina will be going through as regards Article 6.2 with the IWF, that the difference on the changes that can be made to the final verification. Could we move on to the next slide, please, Alton? Okay, the purpose of this seminar is to focus on the EWF competition. The competition, we are governed by the local government policies and the host federation's rules and regulations. Once we receive those from the Russian Federation, they will be able to be forwarded to all the federations. The competition itself is governed by the IWF rules and regulations, and especially with Moscow, it is an Olympic qualification. So Tina and her team will have to work specifically under the rules and regulations of the IWF. So what we will be now focusing on will be just to inform more information on the final verification, the weigh-in room, the warm-up room, and the field of play. Each person must use common sense in their behavior and respect the instructions related to COVID-19. Yes, it is going to be hard for athletes, it's going to be hard for the coaches, but also for the officials. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. So EWF chairwoman for the technical committee, Tina Beta from Denmark, will be taking the lead on this. She will go through each section. Each section will be followed as well from the EWF chairman of the medical committee, Frigga Dun from Norway. Myself will be involved as questions from the coaching, as chairman of the coaching research and scientific committee. And once again, I'd like to welcome the IWF chairwoman for the athletes commission, Sarah Davis. So please use the Q&A section at the end. We welcome questions from athletes, from coaches, officials. So I'd like to hand you over now to our chairwoman of the technical committee, Tina. If you could put up the slide, please.
Thank you very much
Gordon.
for this big opportunity. I will speed my slides up a little bit because I think we have to hold the time so we can end at 4 o'clock. See, when we select the technical official, normally we have a technical official meeting at the venue, and now I will invite all the technical officials for a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting before the competition starts, a week or 14 days before. We can go through all the rules and regulations, and we can go through all the safety stuff that we are going through today. So we will have the technical officials arriving more confident than they might be. And it's very important that that the Russian Federation, they look into the single rooms, except, for instance, that all the technical officials, they must sleep alone, because we need to prevent the virus to go around. And we also must use the face masks and maybe gloves if they are asked, but this is not what we want. But the face masks will be on. And the next slide, please. So for the final verification, we have been through, but it's very important that if the athletes look at it, see if your names are correctly spelled, see if you're in the right category and you have done the right total. All these things is not the athletes who is going through that, that's the coaches, but sometimes the coaches, they do not see everything. So please be aware of that. Yeah, I think we can go through to the next. And then we have the maximum of 10 men and 10 women on the team. And then when we have verified everything, then we can make the start book and we can divide into groups. Yeah, the next, please.
Okay, Trigger, if you could come in on this part.
Yes, I will. Welcome to all. I will be very short because first of all, I will refer to the international playbook for the Olympic Games, and also what the words of Colin and what he told us in the start of this seminar, and also Mike, what he told us. It's very important. And we have to follow the host nation's national COVID-19 protocol for each competition. So it will be some difference between the competition maybe in April and that one in September, October, November. So that's why my points will be very short and brief and general for each thing. Yes, for the final entry meeting, as Hassan told, we will try to avoid having a final entry meeting. We will try to have that online using the new final entry system. If we have a meeting, it might be a meeting for the officials from each country, and we will try to make it as an information meeting, and we will try to make the meeting as short as possible. So to all officials, stay in the room as short time as possible. Paper documents, if you have paper documents, fill them in before you meet. We have something called keep social distance. For example, as already told, use a face mask. Keep at least 1 to 2 meters to each other if socializing. Do not sit close to each other. Do not shake hands or hug, and bring your own pen. Quite easily to remember for all competitions, even if it's not the European Championships in Moscow. It might also be later. Next one, please.
Okay, we're back over to Tina for the weigh-in.
Yes, the weigh-in. And this is a cooperation between the competition secretariat and the referees. The next, please. We always have the team around, the referee team around. They must be there, all 4 referees at the weigh-in. And it should be 2 of each, 2 males and 2 females. But it's not always that it can be like that. So, but for the next one, we need a screen to be proper placed. And then we have proper hygienic conditions also there. And this is just an example on how it would look when you enter the weigh-in room, that there will be a table and we have the referee sitting there, we have the scale. And if it's the men's group, the men referee will be inside and the females will be outside or at the table. They will not be by the scale. Next one, please. And then, of course, the scale must be electronic and it will always be checked. It has a capacity up to 200 kilos and the precision will be 50 grams, minimum. And we have at least 3 scales, 1 official scale, we have a test scale, and we have a training venue scale. And they have to be authorized at least 3 months before the competition. And if it's about the Olympic Games, then it will have a daily calibration. So inside the weigh-in room, there must be an official scale. We must have lots of chairs and tables. We have a stationary kit supplies, and we have start lists, weigh-in lists, athletes cards, start number bibs. We have safety pins, of course, for the bibs, and then we have all the warm-up passes. And then a lot of optional things. This is all that should be in the weigh-in room before we start. And as Trygve said before, remember your own pen. This is an example of a start list. This will be posted outside the weigh-in room, so everybody is able to see when they should enter the weigh-in room for the weigh-in. And it will also be in the start book, either in a book or online. So it has to be visible. So the technical official, they know exactly what to do, but it's very interesting for you athletes and coaches to know what we are looking for. For instance, the names and date of birth must be correct. So please look into, if you see something different in the start book, don't panic, just tell us patiently and we will change. So it's important that everything is accordingly to the passport. And it will be difficult for us to see the athletes wearing face masks, so it's very important that all the other stuff is okay. And then we check for the 20 kilo rule. The start weight in snatch and clean and jerk must be at least 20 kilos below the total that you have entered with. You must also fill in the weight for your first snatch and for your first clean and jerk. And then all the officials attending the weigh-in must sign. Yes. Yes. And this is an athlete card. I think you have seen it all many, many times. Make sure to write inside the boxes. Fill in This is something that the the technical officials are doing, but you will have to sign for your first snatch and clean and jerk attempt. And it's very important that you write the numbers readable, because we are challenged sometimes with the numbers that the coaches are writing. And this is only to secure the athletes so they will get the right kilos on the bar. Yeah, so everything will be filled in with start number, lot number, category, body weight, and everything. Yes, you can go on. So it's very, very important. I have some slides, not now, but later, where you can see some athlete's card filled in quite unreadable. So yes, just go on to the next, please. We will also give you warm-up passes. And it's very important that it's a different color for each session. So we changed the color so it's visible that now we start a new category. It must have a strap because you can put it over your neck. And it's not, you cannot have it without a strap, so you put it in your pocket. And be careful that the strap is not too long so it will get besides the discs. So you can put it like, you have to put it on visible. So this is also for the organizing committee to pay attention to that. Yes. And then we also give out the bib numbers. And this is to put on the right side or the left side of the thigh. So we have a chance to see that it's the right lifter entering the platform. And we cannot say that it has to be on the right side or it has to be on the left side. It's depending on which side we enter the platform. So we will tell you at the way in, you must put it on this or this side. And it must be visible. And at the secretariat, inside the warm-up area, we have the competition secretary, we have the on-duty referees, all of them, all four. We have also the reserve referee, everybody's there. And then optional, we have assistant competition secretary, weigh-in officials, and assistant weigh-in official, if it's possible. So you will meet a lot of people inside, but we will make sure that we have enough space and that we have enough time after the weigh-in so we can ventilate the room. Never be absent. All the referees must be, also the reserve referee. Everybody has to come. Yeah, and this is again just how it can be seen inside the weigh-in room. But I think it's good to know when you enter a room with lots of people that you know what's going on in there. Yeah. So when you are called in for your weigh-in, you will be called in attending in accordance with the start list. And it's only allowed with one team official member going along with the athlete. So you have to check the athlete's face by comparing the passport inside. And I think we just have to remove the masks for a while so it's visible. Yes. And then again, check all things that I've been through before. We know that. So you can just put the dots on, Sultan, because it's what we have been through. Yeah. Everything must be correct. And it's for the athletes, so they will be on the lists correctly with the name and the total and everything. Yeah. So, and at the end, when the weigh-in has finished, then the referees will look through all the papers again. They will check the 20-kilo rules. They will check, did we get the right names and start numbers and everything. And then they will sign the weigh-in list to the competition secretariat. Yes. So this is the way we are doing the weigh-in, and when we finish the weigh-in. So again, check, check, check. You have to check everything: name, date of birth, 20 kilo rule, full name, family name, and have all the capitals there. Oh, I think I speak too fast. Thank you. I will slow down. But this is, again, for the technical official to be prepared to double check the names, date of birth, start weight, and the 20 kilo rules. Okay? So, according to the books of rules, it's not allowed to wear socks when you weigh in. You can weigh in completely undressed or in your undergarments. And this is, we have discussed it for a long time. What can we do? Can we make another exception by the rule and say you can weigh in with socks? But we think that it's best to go by the rules and then to find a paper towel to put on the scale for each athlete entering the scale. And during the weigh-in, you're allowed to have all your jewelries on. You can have your hair adornments and religious headgear, but you cannot have your watch on. That's it. And if you have a prosthetic limbs, then you have to weigh in with that, and it will be the body weight plus the prosthetic limb, and then you put that on the athlete card as well. But in my time in weightlifting, I haven't seen anybody lifting with prosthetic limbs. So, but it's good to have it when we see some. So very important, for one athlete, you will have 3 warm-up passes. If you have 2 athletes in the same group, you have 4 passes. And for any additional athlete, 2 passes per athlete. And this will be in combined groups, combined categories or events. And then if you have more for the weigh-in, you give the first athlete for weigh-in 3 passes, and the second athlete will get 1, the third athlete will get 2, and the fourth athlete will get 2. But the technical official knows that, so they will provide the warm-up passes by the book. Yeah. And again, as I told you, the bib, where to put the bib, it depends on which side we enter the platform.
Okay, Trygve, if you can come in on this part.
Yes, I will. And again, I underline that, first of all, we must follow the actual COVID-19 protocol from the local organizer, and make sure that you know the protocol before you attend the competition. And to the organizers, please remember to send the protocol to all participating countries. That's very important. This is then for the way in. Wash hands and sanitize before entry. Like Mike said, washing the hands is very, very important. Temperature might be recorded according to the protocol. Keep social distance again in the weigh-in queue, marked on floor. In the weigh-in room, use the face mask and do not shake hands or hug. About clothes and equipment, undress most of the clothes outside the weigh-in room to make sure you're in the room as short as possible. Have disposable paper towel on scales during weigh-in, and have your own pen again. And then next one. The athlete will weigh in standing on a paper disposal towel. That will be, we'll make sure of that. The scale will be sanitized because, as Tina told, this is not allowed with socks on, according to the rules. That's why we need the paper disposal towel. The scale will be sanitized after each athlete. The chair for the clothes will be sanitized or disinfected. Coaches, remember to bring your pen TOs will wear face masks, as Tina said, and the rooms will also be sanitized or disinfected after each group. And before I end, I will just try to read a question from Ashley Metcalf that we have to answer. He says, does the EVF, IVF believe it's fair to force athletes from member federations to attend such an important Olympic qualifying competition during the first week in April, when some countries are still experiencing extremely severe restrictions in terms of health and safety, training and travel, as COVID-19 pandemic remains a major issue? Thank you, Ashley. This is really something that should be discussed, and I will send this question over to the EVF Executive Board, and I hope Mike will discuss this also in the IVF Executive Board, because what is the alternative to qualify for the Olympic Games? So that's a big issue that should be discussed, and it's very good that you raised this question, Ashley. I have also seen some more questions, but I will try to answer them later on. Thank you.
Okay, the next section we're moving on to is the warm-up room and the warm-up area. As Trygve just said, we'd like to thank people for the amount of questions that are coming in. We hope to address them under the questions and answers. And if we do not have the answers, we will report back to our fellow members of the Executive Board, and we will email you the answers. The questions are fantastic, but we must stress we have to work under the regulation of the host federation's government, the Olympic Committee of that federation, the federation, and the IWF. We hope collectively to have a document available long before people leave. On that, I'm going to hand you over to Tina again, and we'll focus on the warm-up room. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. And in the warm-up area, the warm-up room, it will be a cooperation between the coaches and the technical official. And according to the rules, we must have a warm-up area close to the platform. And there must be an amount of numbered warm-up platforms. And I've been told that in Moscow, we have a really large and huge warm-up room with lots of space. And we will, of course, also take all the precautions for that. But we must have lots of training or warm-up platforms inside. And it's something about the measurement as well. It should not be as big as the competition platform. So it's okay if it's a little less, but Eleiko makes perfect warm-up platforms. And then there must be barbells, chalk, raisin, and everything. But as Michael Irani also said, it's important that each nation have their own chalk. Or for every group that has been outside, they provide chalk, and then we take it away, and then a new one will come for the next group. And then we need loudspeakers, so you can hear when it's your time to lift. And we need a real-time scoreboard, multiple, so we don't have all the coaches clumping up, getting together and not keeping the social distance. And then we must have an attempt board. We also need official timing clock and live video, if that's even possible. And then we have the tables for marshals and competition doctors. And we are talking about maybe expanding the chief marshals. So we have 3 chief marshals instead of 2 to for the safety reasons. And we also need water and refreshments in the warm-up area, and ice if we get injuries, and other tables if it's required to have stuff on. And then, of course, either bathroom, toilets near or inside is not possible, I think, but close to. And then it's only for the ones who have warm-up passes that has access. Please remember that. As technical controller, it's their duty to find out how many people inside, and it can be a war zone sometimes. So, and we all know it's part of the game and strategically and tactically. So, but please remember, if you have warm-up passes, you are allowed to be inside. If you don't have a warm-up pass, please go outside. And this is athlete cards being written in the heat of the moment. And it can be very difficult to see what it says. Well, we can all see it says 137 on the one to the left. And then it says 138 for the increment. But what is the declare weight? It's difficult to see. And if you see on the right side, it says 65 easy because it was from the computer, but then 71 is also easy, 74, and then the automatically. It's difficult to see. It's not clearly. So please, the next is also 135, and then one, you can guess it's 138, but it's not clear. And again, it's for the athlete. So please fill it in so it's readable for everybody. Yeah.
Okay, Trygve.
Yes, about the warm-up area. And again, the social distance is very important. The coaches and officials should wear the face mask, as we have already told. Athletes, when not warming up on the platform, be aware, keep social distance, don't walk around in the room. Make sure you are polite to the lifters beside you. You don't enter their platform. Do not queue up in front of the attempt board and scoreboard. Colin will tell you about this a little bit later on with some pictures. More than one scoreboard in the warm-up or warm-up area. We are discussing if it should be more, and Colin will also come back to that. Be on time to the chief marshal table. Don't wait until the last second and make a queue there. I understand that the coaches will, of course, take benefit of the rules and use it tactically, but please try to, if it's possible, to not queue up in front of the chief marshal table because you are late. Keep your distance to the platforms, coaches and athletes. Do not shake hands or hug. Sanitize and disinfect your hands. Go back to your own platform when you're waiting for the next lift, and use your own chair and chalk. That should be easy. Next one, thank you. To the technical officials, or a TC. When the lifters are allowed to enter the warm-up room, please guide them to the correct platform. Make sure that there is chalk and disinfection at every platform. For your information, we will try to organize so that the presentation of athletes will be from the athletes warm-up platform and not from the competition stage. So hopefully they will not be needed with the lineup to present the lifters. We will come back to that also. Keep an eye on the athletes. That point should be striked out. So that's just a copy-paste mistake. Next one. And then we have it again, the athletes, maybe via video from the warm-up room and from their own platform wearing their team jacket instead of going into a lineup on the platform, risking to infect each other, staying very close, 10 lifters there. It would be too bad if a whole group should be infected by COVID-19 because of the lineup. And also the officials, we are discussing to introduce them from their working places, working zones, like the referees should sit on their chairs and a video should present them. Yes, there's a lot of questions now, and all of them is about the COVID-19, and a lot of them goes into the quarantine question. So we will try to answer that, Erling, and also some others that have asked about the quarantine in the end of the seminar.
Okay, thank you, Trygve. Could we move on to the next slide? So, folks, as we said, protect ourselves. Wear your mask, hand sanitize, and distancing. Before you enter the warm-up room, you may have to go through a sanitized station. Within that, we have to be patient, be in time, but also vacate the room as soon as you finish lifting, so it'll help increase the chance of ventilation and the room to be cleaned for the next group. Ideally, minimum is 30 minutes, ideally, between groups. Now, if you look at the drawing in front, we have just a rough sketch of a warm-up room. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. As we talked about, the entrance into the warm-up room and the entrance into the field of play, you may have to go through a sanitized station. Could you move on to the next slide? Now, when we look, the ideal procedure is for each platform to have its own screen, its own scoreboard. Financially and optimally, that may not be the case. In Russia, we believe the warm-up room is going to be of a very, very large size. So the platforms will be spaced more than the 2 meters apart. But at the very least, we would be looking at 2 televisions. Those 2 television monitors will have areas marked on the floor, which will be the same number as your platform. The coach will stand on that specific area and then go back. There will not be groups of coaches hanging around the one television area. Secondly, the marshal's table. As Tina said, it is hoped to have an extra marshal there. It is going to be an area of high temperature. It's going to be an area with high anxiety. English may not be the first language. The person sitting down behind the table, the official, will have a face mask. The coach will have a face mask, and the interpretation is going to be hard. The numbers will have to be legible, and there will be extra work on the extra official. So please be polite and be patient. If the coach and the official are not working together, it will affect the performance of the athlete. So it's important that we take time, that when we arrive in the warm-up room, the proposal is that all coaches will meet with the technical controller and marshal for 3 to 5 minutes. Objective is to walk through everything to make sure that the athlete can be as comfortable as possible. That includes bringing your own pen, the athlete having their own chalk, having their own water bottle, and everybody is clear on the procedure. The final area is the waiting area before we go to the field of play. There must be minimum distance between chairs. We cannot allow coaches with a towel to be fanning down to keep an athlete cool with another athlete sitting nearby. There is fantastic amount of questions coming in. What we hope to do is compile all questions, bring them before the end of the week to the EWF Executive Board, who in turn will bring to the organizing committee with Russia. And together, hopefully, we can have a floor plan for the coaches and the officials in plenty of time. Can we move on to the next slide? So
Yes.
Tina will now come in with the field of play. And before I just want to keep saying it, we will have time to answer questions and keep the questions coming in. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. The field of play, or the competition area, it's for the sport of weightlifting. The field of play relates to area of competition which contains the platform, the competition platform that has the measurement that we should go with, technical officials and competition management tables, and the warm-up area. And then there's a lot of additions. It could also have, it must have a doping control station. And there should also be a changing room with shower. Well, this is, again, what it says in the rules, okay? And then we translate it to the COVID-19. There must be, or should be, athletes' rest area, competition management office, first aid or medical room, IWF meeting or EWF meeting room, and all the president, general secretary, and secretariat must have a room for themselves. There must also be a press center, And also we must have a sauna. But again, is this possible with COVID-19? But still, we need to find out how to help the athletes going in the right body category. So this is just a question again. We also need technical official room. We need a training area, and we need VIP rooms. And of course, the most important, the weigh-in room and test weigh-in room. And who are allowed in the field of play? All the technical officials, including the competition doctors, the competition management, the loaders, of course, the athlete announced, and the coaches who will be in the coach zone. Maybe we have to do a bigger coach zone this time, because normally it's by one or something, and then 3 coaches and technical controller will stand in there. So we will have to look to expand the coaches zone, and then all the VIPs, of course. But the coaches are only allowed in the coach zone. And this is also something that we see outside in the field of play. If you see at the first attempt, as Suarez is going in to the left, there's nothing on his elbow. The second attempt, there's nothing on his elbow. But then finally, at the third attempt, he put a black tape on his elbow. And this is not to see from the outside. It's not possible for the referees on duty to see it. The technical controller might see it, but his t-shirt is also long. So you can have a tape on your elbow, but it has to be 5 centimeters above the elbow and 5 centimeters under the elbow. That's what you can do. This is not allowed. If we take the next picture, then we have a Polish girl, and she has tape that has the same color as her skin, but it is not 5 centimeters above the elbow. So this is not correct either. This should have been taken off. So it's just to have an attention to that. And then this picture I got from the pictures I've just shown you with the tape, and this from the Olympic Games I got from Milan Mihailovic. This is to show the safety of the athletes. If somebody falls, faints, or anything and fall down off the stage, they will kick their head to this roller coaster thing. I know it's for the camera, but still we need to have an eye on that, so we keep the safety of the athletes. You can also faint during walking down the stairs and then fall on the side. So this is just for the safety reasons. Yeah. And the victory ceremony is also me, I think. We will also, we will have it confirmed by the organizers before the competition if this is how we can do it. But we need to sanitize the area before we have the ceremony, and we have safe distance, and we have separated the victory podium places. So we have social distance between the athletes that are having a medal. And then it will be on the left, it will be silver, and in the middle, gold, and on the right, it will be the bronze medal. And we will not handshake, or we will not celebrate the hugging. We even talk about leaving the medals on the podium so the athletes will put them on themselves. And yeah, that's a way to do it. Or we can have presenters coming, and then they take it from the plate where we normally hand it over to the athletes.
Okay, Triggev?
Yes, I will try to be short again because it is a repetition of what we have already said. But nevertheless, it's very, very important to repeat this because you are not allowed to forget it. You are not allowed to forget it. Coaches and TOs in the field of play must wear the face mask. Keep distance to each other's. You must, the coaches must stay in the coaches area or coaches zone. Please, coaches, don't go out of this zone. That's a risk. Don't run to take photos or anything else, and make sure there is not too many coaches in the coaches area zone beside the platform. This is important. This is probably the place that's most difficult to keep the social distance. So that's why I focus especially to it. Loaders, wear gloves and face mask, sanitize or disinfect the barbell when a new athlete is on the platform. Of course, it will be nice to have 2 bars, then you could change the bar between each lifter. That would be the best, maybe the fastest, but anyway, make sure the barbell is clean and sanitized. We'll also make a laminated loading chart easy for the loaders to make sure that they have the correct load on the bar. The tables and chairs might be a problem. For example, if we have 5 jury members and we will have 2 meters between the jury members, it will be a 10-meter long table. So I guess we will have to contact the IWF to find out how to sort out that. We cannot sit covering the whole platform with jury members. Maybe 2 rows is a possibility. Even maybe it's possible to have only 3 jury members. But of course, again, this is a qualifying event, which tells us that it must be 5. Have IWF considered that? We will have to ask them. Thank you.
Okay. Now, when we look at the warm-up room and the field of entry, we have to be very, very careful, especially at the corner where the technical officials, the coach, and the athlete are present. We must remember there may not be chalk. So it's best to bring your own chalk with you, be on time, respect the distance, because there will be a marked out area for the coach and the athlete before they walk onto the platform. As we are all aware, this cannot be an area for photography, for coaches to be going outside of the area. We have to respect the technical controller. We must respect the space for everybody, including the doctor. So please be patient, be polite, and stay within the zone. Also for coaches, when they're rushing back to the marshal's table, we cannot be pushing and shoving. Yes, it is an area of stress, but we must respect everybody. Now, looking at the chart in front of us, in the warm-up area, those platforms will be a minimum of 2 meters apart. An ideal scenario will be a screen between each one, but we know that will not be viable. Athletes, once they're on the platform and warming up, they can remove their masks. There will be a sanitized station at each platform, which may consist of a spray with a cloth for disinfectant. You will bring your own water bottle with you as well. The athlete will not need to put on that mask until after they're finished lifting and they're back to their platform. But when they're not lifting at that stage, they must put their masks back on. Coaches and officials must wear masks at all stages. So we're moving on to the next slide, please, which will be questions and answers, which will be for all the panel. We've had a fantastic collection of questions. And before we start, if we could just summarize with some of the questions. And the main questions are relating to health and safety and COVID-19. The main point which we're putting across is a risk assessment document and a safety statement must be prepared. For that to happen, we must get a form of schematics or drawing from the Russian Federation so we can show a layout of the warm-up room and the layout of the field of play. Within that, we must also get the rules and regulations from the host nation's local federation. We must get rules and areas we need to discuss with the IWF. As Triggev quite rightly said, in Russia, it is a qualification event, and the IWF rules state there must be 5 jury members. We need to get clarification on that. But there must be a risk assessment document available for all federations. So when they arrive at the competition or before they leave their country, they have minimum standards in place. This must be discussed with the EWF Executive Board and also the IWF. So with that, the panel is open for questions. Trig, would you like to go with some of the questions which you received with regards to COVID?
Yes, I will try. No, I cannot answer all of them because they are not discussed within the executive board. But I start with the first one from Ashley Metcalf. Can the EVF, IVF confirm that they are comfortable with all the risk associated with the current worldwide pandemic? Have been considered and all the risk assessments will be made? Yes, we will try to do all the risk assessment, but as Colin said, it's very difficult when we don't have the protocols from each organizing federation. And Ashley, I can assure you that the AVF executive board will discuss this if we are comfortable, because that depends on the situation. And we cannot say anything about the situation before we are closer, but the first competition in Moscow is heading very fast now. So I will hand this over to the executive board and we must discuss it. And also to Mike, which is listening, this should be discussed in the IWF executive board as well to make sure that this is really discussed.
But seeing but seeing out in the world that other sports are having championships and having strict COVID-19 restrictions, I think that we are ready to have the championships in weightlifting as well under these circumstances. Sorry, Trygve.
Yeah, I think the same, but I agree with Tina. So it just has to make answer the question properly, and then of course I know that Antonio is also listening, so this is important. And can the IVF and AVF explain why they have not appointed a specialist COVID medical officer? I don't read the whole questions. I'm sorry, Ashley, we have not done that. It's a good idea, and I will also immediately hand that over to the executive board and the medical committee to be discussed. It's a very, very good question, and maybe we should have done it before. Maybe we should have done that before, Ashley.
I have a question from France regarding the ITO, the International Technical Officials, if they will be provided single rooms. And we are hoping that we can do that. We are in contact with Moscow, and I know that Hassan has been talking to, maybe he can answer?
Yeah,
this,
I think yesterday I talked with Maxim. Before yesterday, I sent a question to him. Then yesterday, he back to me, and he can provide the single room for all technical officials. So it is possible. And also, when I start speaking, I received a question about the final verification system. So it is the really nearly invention, then, but it is ready to use. And some some countries asked to start the final verification through the online earlier than the end of the March. It is okay. It is not the important when it starts. It is most important things, the deadline. So we can, I think we will make a decision in next couple of days to use it, because it's a simple and it is ready to be used today. So we can start the final verification process through the online earlier than the end of March. It's not a problem. Okay, thank you.
And it's Trygve here again. There is a question from Erling Åkesson and also from Dennis Offerman about the quarantine rules in different countries. I can assure you that I understand what you're talking about, because I am one of those that will have a very, very long quarantine when I come back home. And for me personally, I will be away from home. If I attend the elections, the competitions, and the quarantine, I will be away for work for nearly a month. So that's a very difficult question. I do understand that this is worrying people, that the quarantine rules in different countries are different. But nevertheless, we will have to try to organize a competition with those officials that can participate. So it's a big problem, but we have to solve it.
And it's also it's different from country to country. In Denmark, if you are professional, then you do not have to go in quarantine when you come back. So you can, if you have the tests and everything. And but I might, as technical official, I'm not sure that I can be put under that category as professional. So, yeah.
Okay, there's some fantastic questions, and many are there from Attila, from Tom, from Mike, to Stuart, to Erling, many colleagues and friends. Just to reiterate, the EWF will be running, is responsible for the field of play, is responsible for the competition. The host federation, through their national government, are responsible for organising the event. All rules and regulations must be under the IWF. The proposal is, following this, is to directly contact the IWF Executive Board, the EWF Executive Board, and the Russian Executive Board, with the view to putting together a risk assessment document and safety statement, working from when you arrive in the country. From when you arrive at the airport, your meet and greet, to your transportation system, from your bus to the airport. It may be teams may have to travel individually, to when you arrive at your hotel. The accreditation system in the hotel might be with the team leader only. There might be the facility that your rooms are in advance and all your information is in the room. We have talked about using the internal television system available for updates. We've talked about using an internal WhatsApp group or Instagram group that the team official can be notified. But if people can be patient for 7 days, we hope to be answer the majority of the questions that have come in. Health and safety is the priority. Protect and be protected. We have the president of the EWF and the interim president of the IWF here today. We will write to them as well officially straight after this presentation, and hopefully within 7 days, we should be in a position working with Russia to be able to give you information about a safety statement. The proposal will be that this safety statement will be sent to each federation, to the secretary, before the final or at the final entry. That each federation will translate this document to their own language. With that, the team lead official or team leader will bring a copy of the document with them. So when they arrive at the airport, every team member, from the athlete to the coach to the official, has a clear understanding of what step. Especially as Tom Grover was saying there, even things like the lift in the hotel. Some hotels are very small lifts. Yes, you might only have allowed 2 people at the time. Yes, hanging around in the corridors, all these things and social bubbles, these will have to be discussed. So we are not postponing in any way. So we ask, please be patient for 7 days while we communicate with the Russian Federation, the IWF, and fellow members of the executive board. I hope I've clearly answered this for you. Thank you. Tina, Trigger, would you like to come in with other questions? Or
Yes,
even still,
yes,
Sarah?
I have.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw that somebody was asking about maybe looking about the number of technical official. And of course we can look into that. And I have also considered that maybe we should not have a reserve referee, but in the case of a positive COVID, then we need to think this through. Of course, we should not be too many, but we need to be, for the safety reason, at least 3 chief marshals and maybe also 2 technical controllers out in the warm-up area and 1 technical controller at the platform. So we will look into that and get back to whatever is possible and what makes sense.
and it's Trygve here. We have got a question from Attila Adamfi. He asks us if we consider to decrease the number of team officials allowed in the warm-up area. Of course, we should consider that, but and again, this is a rule decided by the IWF, and we are not sure if we are allowed to decrease it. So it will be a question we have to ask the IWF about. Every change of the regulations, the rules and regulations in the IWF TCRR will have to be asked to the IWF, but we will help you to do that. Thank you.
There is also questions coming in. Will the Russian Federation be providing transparent screens in the weigh-in rooms, etc.? No technical official can go into a room that is not of a minimum standard. And that is one thing that Tina has been very strict on. Also with Trygve as regards to health and safety. Your priority, that is the concern of the EWF executive. And nobody will be let down in any way on that under the leadership of the IWF. Minimum standards will have to be available at every stage. Somebody else was on about the layout and warm-up room in Batumi, where we had, which was perfect. We had a screen. Yes, that was fantastic. But for some federations going forward, it is the expense of being able to afford a screen. This is why we have put a minimum of 2 televisions for 10 platforms. So you will have a maximum of 5 at each one. There is also questions coming in where people are asking about the 14-day when they return. And also, what about countries who are having difficulties? Yes, there are many, many countries, including my own country, Ireland, where it's only recommended that essential travel. All we can do is deal with the competition at hand. As regards to the individual countries, you must deal with your National Olympic Committee and with your host federation, also your national government. We can't answer on that. Now we have the president of the IWF waiting to come in. So Zoltan, if you could put the screen over to Mike, please. Thank you. Yes, Mike, could you take yourself off mute, please? Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah,
thank you,
there we
Mike.
are.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Colin, for letting me interlope here. There's one thing, travel insurance. Have you mentioned that? I didn't hear travel insurance as such, because that would be helpful, but, and this is a big but, so far we've not been able to find any travel insurance that covers for COVID quarantine if it happens. And if you fall ill or you feel you've got a sore throat or you just got a cold. And so it's really, really difficult to allow for that. But make sure at least that you have travel insurance if you break your ankle walking at night or something like that, or you slip over in a bath. Please do that. That's very important. Thank you. Thank you, Colin.
But according to the IWF and EWF constitutions, the duty of care is on the National Federation to ensure that all their members have minimum insurance, and that includes travel insurance.
I have a question as well. As somebody asked me, or Ashley asked and said it was perfect that all the technical officials provided single rooms, but what about the coaches and the athletes? And you can say that, yeah, they need special rooms as well, or single rooms. But if you are training together, then you are in a bubble, and you stay with that bubble. And but of course, the coaches must also be provided single rooms. So we must look into that as well.
And it's Trygve here with a question from Milan. He's asking us, what happens when one member of the team is suspected of being infected by the COVID during the competition? This is something, Milan, that we really have to work out in good time before the competition, so that it must be in the protocol on how we should act. Because this is very important. And one thing, if we suspect it, what if it is sure that we know that someone is infected? What will happen? How many will be quarantined? And Mike, he's raising hands. So please, Mike, if you
could. We thought of that, or I thought of that. And the thing is, you do exactly as you would if you are in civilian life. Not, you know, if you get infected, you isolate, you test, and you observe so that you make sure the person doesn't get worse, and that it's a positive test or negative test, and you isolate them, and then you repatriate them. But the repatriation may depend upon your insurance, right? That's very expensive, air repatriation. So be careful. Make sure you look at the small print in your insurance policy. It's very important that you look at that. But you do exactly as you would in ordinary life. Isolate, observe, make sure you get the person coming in the, say they have to go into hospital, they're bad enough, but usually you treat them at home. Normally you treat them at home, you observe at home, and you make sure that they don't get worse. And then if they are short of breath, if they are coughing a lot, then they need to go into hospital and be looked after there. This is where the insurance may well help you if you're covered for that. But some insurance companies cover you for cough, cold, this sort of thing. But others think the worst, and they say, you got COVID, you can't go, we don't insure you, pay for it yourself, which is terrible. I think then you have to think about, does the federation, there's a nation, the country, national federation, does it cover them for the accommodation?
Okay, very valid points. Sarah, you've been waiting patiently. From the athlete's point of view, as we all talk about, the competition is here from the athletes. We'd welcome to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, just going back to that point about the room situation, speaking from a personal point of view and knowing a lot of teammates and, you know, people across Europe, not all athletes train together in national training centres. A lot of us are in different centres. Our coaches in the UK aren't in the same gym. So I think it's important that athletes do have a single room, because at the end of the day, we're there for that competition for the athletes, and the athletes need to be prioritised. I've seen it too many times that technical officials get the nice hotels and everything else and the athletes don't. So I think we should get the same treatment, because it is a championships for the athletes. And also, if athletes are sharing rooms, if one athlete has to isolate, it isn't fair that their teammate then could potentially miss their competition because that somebody else is isolating that they're sharing a room with. So I think that's what we need to consider, is making sure that every single athlete has their best opportunity to compete on that stage. And it's not necessarily fair to assume that all athletes are in bubbles together.
Very, very, very vital. The athletes, unfortunately, the expense is with the national federation, and some federations are not in a position. But we have to think with the COVID, where single rooms is the way forward. Our president, Dr. Antonio, would you like to say a few words?
Let me to say, I really appreciate all the speeches about and all the presentations and what is possible to do for the next competition. I am sure that we can compete to have a very high level of security about the possibilities to think to the future about our competition and our sports. Of course, the first competition will be the first experience for all of the people inside of the competition, athletes, coaches, referees, and organizing committee. And we will do our best, but we will have all the information, the necessary information for the future, to do our best in the next competition and in the whole competition during this pandemic time. I really appreciate. I would like to thank all of you, Trig, Colin, Tina, General Secretary Sanakus, the International Weightlifting Federation, also Michael Irani for the suggestion about this moment. We cross the finger and we start. We put all the energies for this competition, and I am sure that will come back at a home happy and satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Yes, who's Mike?
I just
Yes?
said amen. I hope that's so. One point to Sarah. A doctor usually has a room on his own because he uses it usually as a clinic as well, clinic room, and he wants some confidentiality. That's the reason why. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, have we any other questions that the panel would like to ask? I know we have many questions. A lot of them are detailed that we need to consult with the EWF Executive Board and the IWF Executive Board before we can make a definitive statement on it. They're very, very good questions. And yes, we will come back to you. The questions will all be saved and I will have your email addresses. Okay, well, could we move on to the next slide there, please? Zoltan, could we move on to the next slide, please? Okay, we would like to thank today, that Zoltan is there in the background, who's the IT manager for the IWF. He's done a great job in putting all this together. Late last night, Alexandra came in from Russia as our interpreter, who's a very nice girl, who's been fantastic. And we also have the General Secretary for Spain, Juan Lama, who has been translating, and I have messages from South America who are delighted with his translation. Lads, the three of you have been important elements of this presentation. Hopefully we might be at a position, I have to consult with the IWF and the EWF, that maybe in 2 weeks' time, we could look at having a presentation put together specifically for the management of the Russian competition with regards to all health and safety and risk assessments. I cannot make that decision without permission from Dr. Mike Arani and permission from Dr. Antonio Urso and permission from my fellow board members of the European Weightlifting Federation. Unfortunately, the Aleco presentation, which we will be giving out details for the prizes, will only be available to the people who pre-signed in for the event. People who joined us on YouTube, we thank you so much for that. But the other people, if we ask you who signed on through Zoom, just to stay on for another 2 slides. And Zoltan, if you could just put the final slide up there, please.